Hi, Eddie.
Top of the morning to everyone here. Good morning. What a magnificent, beautiful crowd we have here this morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Tennessee Valley Unitarian Universalist Church, and welcome to all of our friends, members, and those who have tuned in online. We appreciate you being here. My name is Heather Kistner. I'm a lifelong member here at TVUUC and a member of the board. And I've been told this morning that I'm also the president-elect. So I appreciate the applause. It's a little bit odd for me to say out loud, and some folks kind of poke at me a little bit, and so I'm trying to practice and say it out loud, so I appreciate the support. I just have a couple of announcements. This is a multi-generational service, but as always, regardless, we welcome all of the wiggles and movements. and young sounds in our space. Ruth Martin, Chili and Game Night. How many of you knew Ruth? Know Ruth? Knew Ruth? Wonderful. We hear wonderful things about her. I did not have the pleasure of knowing her, but I know in celebration of her memory, moving forward, we do have the annual Chili Game Night. It's especially exciting that's going to be happening next Saturday. As always, the board is going to be present and prepare some yummies. I believe we have about 50 folks signed up. We also have the privilege of feeding the youth that evening who will be joining TVUUC for the high school youth nights. So we're very excited about that. The word bylaws. Question and answer session will be this afternoon from 1 to 2:30. It's a wonderful opportunity for open, honest conversation, clarifications, more of a in-depth awareness of what are bylaws and why do they matter. Everything from a high-level view to tell me what you really want me to know. So I do invite you to come. There is childcare provided for that time. Thank you to Miriam and Catherine for making that happen for us. Starting point is being rescheduled to a later date. If you were planning on coming to that class today offered by Mark Mahundro, he does need to reschedule, so please be on the lookout for that rescheduled day. I would like to welcome Chloe up for an announcement about, you know what, books.
She's a lot taller. Yes, I'm Chloe Roldy Waters, and I'm president of the Alliance, which is sponsoring that amazing book sale. Today's your last chance. And for our beloved congregation, for our beloved church, you pay with your heart. So take what you want and give us what you want. Remembering that the Alliance does fantastic things with that money for the church. And that's it. Thank you.
So, as you join us today, whoever you are, wherever you have come from, wherever you want to go, and who you are along your journey, we definitely welcome you here. We're very thankful for the opportunity to be in your company, whether you're here in our space or, again, tuned in online. I ask that you go ahead and silence your electronic devices. Let's enter into worship. Thank you.
is a sanctuary for love. As we celebrate the love that is at the center of our faith this morning, I invite you to engage in it in multiple ways as we're in community together today. Those who are here in person in the sanctuary, you may find that we have some extra tactile soul work materials available today for folks of all ages. Some of you may have noticed we have a couple of extra tables here in the front this morning. They have some materials for if you would like to create a Valentine for somebody that you love, or to leave here with us so that we can share it with somebody in our community who could use some extra cheer this week. We also have some heart-shaped rainbow scratch paper on the sides here that anybody's welcome to get, and some mandala coloring pages that are themed with love and hearts today. So we invite you all to take part. So as we enter into worship this morning, I invite you to say these words with me. We're going to repeat them a number of times. Are you ready? I've already said them once. This is a sanctuary for love. Should we try it? This is a sanctuary for love. It is full of the love of all who have worshiped here, those who have celebrated and grieved here, the babies dedicated, couples married, and beloveds mourned here. This is a sanctuary for love. It is full of the love of our children as they learn and laugh together, and our youth as they grow into their own sense of purpose and meaning. This is a sanctuary for love. It is full of the love of all who have served it, full of their hopes for this congregation, their hard work, and their acts of dedication. This is a sanctuary for love. It is full of our love, the love of this community with all the differences and disagreements that come of being human together. The love still that holds us together as a people. This is a sanctuary for love. Come, let us worship together.
I invite you to join together in our opening hymn, which is hymn 131 in the great hymnal, Love Will Guide Us.
good to be gathered in all the ways that we gather this morning here in this space, and those watching from another space in this building or from home or somewhere else. I am so glad to be here with all of you. And I have a story to share this morning that takes place in a Unitarian Universalist congregation, much like our own. How many of us have ever been to an event in this community where people of different ages were together? This is a trick question. You're at one right now. Well, this was an event in that UU congregation, and it was a Valentine's party. It was a party for all ages, and one of the activities they had at that event was to make hearts. Have any of us ever made or decorated something that was heart-shaped before? Well, there was a kid at this party named Emily, and she worked really, really hard on her heart. There was construction paper, and there were decorations, and there were markers, and she wanted to make the most perfect heart she had ever seen. There was even glitter, and she loved glitter. Any of us here like glitter? Any of us here really not like it at all? Well, Emily loved glitter, and so she very carefully put glue and a beautiful design on the edges and put glitter on it, and when she was done, she thought it was the most perfect thing she had ever seen. Well, it was getting towards the end of the event, and she was helping to clean up, and then she noticed there was a woman who was maybe looked to be about the age of her grandmother, who was at one of the tables, and her heart really surprised Emily. Her heart could not have been more different from Emily's. It was a mishmash mess of torn pieces of paper of different colors, and there were wrinkles, and there was even a hole in it. And Emily thought, I wonder if something went wrong. And she went to the woman, she said, can I help you fix your heart? And the woman smiled at her and said, it doesn't need fixing. I decided to make my heart be my own heart. This is a picture of what my heart looks like. And that was pretty confusing to Emily, because she said, but it's kind of messy. Do any of us ever feel like our heart is sometimes a little bit messy? And then Emily asked, and she said, there's so many different pieces, and it's all crumpled up here, and some of the parts are really beautiful, and I don't really understand. Can you help me? Can you tell me about this heart of yours? And the woman, as some of us might have guessed, said something to Emily about all the experiences in her life. Have we ever had really beautiful, incredibly happy experiences in our lives? The woman pointed to one, she said, this piece is for the day I met the person I later married. And she said, this piece is one for each of the children we had. What are some other really happy things that have happened to you? What's something really, really happy that has happened? Anybody want to share really quickly? Something happy. Sunsets. This piece is for the most beautiful sunsets that I can see from my front porch. What else? Yes. Making this. Here's a piece right here for this heart I made just now. It's like a metaphor. Yeah, what else? Yeah, so when you were born, you said that it may not be completely happy, but when you were born, because if you hadn't been born, you wouldn't be here right now. Yeah. Do any of us have things that are like really big, happy, and there are also parts of it that might not be completely happy? Yeah, sometimes things are messy. Birth is kind of messy. Yeah. And Emily was still wondering about the other parts, though. She said, there's so many beautiful pieces here, but what about these pieces where it's crumpled and there's even a hole there? And the woman said, those are for the hard times. How many of us have had hard times in our life? Times when we were really sad. This part here is when I was a kid and my best friend was really, really sick for a long time. Have any of us loved somebody who was sick? And this part here, the hole, that's from when my spouse died. So this has all of the pieces. Yeah, we had a long life together, but my spouse isn't here anymore, and that made a hole. And the woman said to Emily, she said, and every person I've ever cared about, every person I've ever loved, every person who's been part of my life, they've actually taken a piece of my heart with them. Now that concerned Emily a little bit because she thought, but what if you give away all the pieces of your heart, there's nothing left? But the woman smiled and said, oh, it doesn't work like that, because they have all given a piece of their heart to me too. And so Emily looked at the woman's mishmash, messy heart, and she looked at her perfect heart. And does anybody have a guess what she did? Without hesitation, she tore a piece off of her perfect heart and she held it out to the woman. And the woman, in turn, took a piece off of her mishmash heart and handed it to Emily. And that is our story for this morning as we think about the ways in which our hearts are changed by everybody we encounter, by the happy times as well as the sad times, and that we together in this community, I think, we each have our own individual mishmash heart, but I think our TVUUC community also has its own giant mishmash heart. Does anybody think that too? And in fact, this morning, those of us who are here in person, I am going to invite you to help us create our giant TVUUC mishmash heart. So you might have noticed, if you are here in this room, a little scrap of paper. If anybody does not have a scrap of paper already and would like one, or wants a different one, we have some baskets on the side with more, and there's another basket here, or you can raise your hand and I bet a helper would be happy to bring you one. You also are welcome to trade with somebody if you think the color you have doesn't represent you really well or you want it different. Because what I'm going to invite you with these pieces of paper, I want you to do something to that piece of paper that makes it represent you in some way, you and your heart. So you might draw or write something on it, or ask somebody near you to help you with that. You might tear it into a different shape. You might even crumple it a little bit. Whatever you want to do to make that piece of paper represent you and your heart. All of us who are gathered this morning, if you are watching from somewhere else, you are invited to make your own little scrap of paper and make one for yourself too. You are part of our community as well. Those of us who are here in person, you're going to have a little while during our service to work on your piece of paper. And then during the offertory, we're going to come around, we're going to invite folks. I'll tell you what to do then. We're going to collect them so that we can create our TVUUC mishmash heart. All right? Thank you all so much.
First, I almost stepped on a heart there, coming up here. Almost fell on my own. I'm Doug Cox. I'm a member of the spiritual care team. We listen to people who might want to talk about anything, particular concerns. So there's a number on the back of the bulletin that says Pastoral Care Line. So if you want to call that line, you can. And afterwards, we will be out in the hallway to listen to anything you have to say. We might even have something to say back to you. You never know. We're remembering Tony Powell, who last week moved to NHC Farragut for rehab after a hip replacement. And we'll enjoy visitors. So if you're going out that way or make a trip out that way, go see her. She'll enjoy seeing you. Remembering a Blount County officer, police officer, Greg McCowan, who last Thursday was shot and killed at a routine traffic stop, along with his partner who was wounded in the leg but not seriously. The suspect is still at large, they say in the paper. But people do put their lives on the line, and we love them for it. Daniel Buchanan, stepbrother, died last week, and there's sadness in that family. So please let's remember Daniel. And on a brighter note, Dan Bean turned 89 today. Birthday. Hey, it's his birthday. So we're happy about that. Was remembering some things happening around the world. You know, things happen close to home, things happen other places. But the karma of all good and bad things are partly ours. The hearts of 1.5 million refugees in Rafah are refugees from the Israeli-Hamas war, and they're huddled there in Rafah, hoping for something good to happen, but apparently nothing good much is happening there. And they have a lot of fear, they have a lot of anxiety, a lot of concern, parents, children. And we share their fear and their uncertainty and know that they are brothers and sisters. We also acknowledge the many Israelis who also suffer, and soldiers who have now or will have trauma and shock as a result of their participation in this terrible, terrible conflict that people seem to know how to start but do not know how to stop. These soldiers and many of the people are just teens, children, and young adults. As I mentioned before, we have in the hallways, we have a listening booth, so please come by. Dan there and I will be at the listening booth today. Cares, concerns, ideas, suggestions, good jokes, all welcome. And in that vein, each of us individually should feel free to remember others, whomever they may be, who need a call, a touch, a thought, a prayer, at special times, which we all can remember, most of us anyway. A call, a touch, a visit meant a lot and will mean a lot. So it's something to keep in mind for all of us, with all of the people here. In the back, please visit the caring table, where you can sign cards for people who will enjoy getting a card in their times of care and concern. And now, do you have anything, Chris, that I missed? No, he doesn't. I didn't find him in the hallway this morning. For those unmentioned cares and concerns, we offer love, we offer empathy, and we offer focused concern.
Chris found this poem by Libba Keenan as he was going through files of our church history, and it's appropriate on so many levels for the historical reasons, but also as we kick off the stewardship campaign, because it is about money. Several of us here were privileged to know Libba, who was one of the pillars of the church when I joined in 1975. I came to love her somewhat acerbic wit, and I also was the beneficiary of a ticket that Libba gave me that she left on my car, because in our old church we had gravel parking place and somewhat amorphous lines, and it seems that I didn't know where that amorphous line was, and I had crossed over it. So on my windshield when I came out of church was this note, and her daughter happened to be near me and said, "Oh, that's Mom's writing." Well, she let me know in no uncertain terms that I was parked over the line and that I was abusing the privilege of being able to park at TVUUC. This poem, as you will see, is about money, the paucity thereof for our church. But I want to say this about Libba, and if Shirley Brooks is watching this, I hope she'll corroborate my memory of it. If there was ever a need in this church, whether it was for somebody or for something that the church needed, it was Libba that people went to, and Libba wrote the check. So an extraordinary, generous woman. And here is her poem. It's on the 5th anniversary of the church, and they were in Unitarian House, but as you'll see, which was in the Fort Sanders area, that they had aspirations for, what shall I say, Kingston Pike, and here we are. The epigraph to the poem is by a writer named John Elson. We weary pilgrims find a home at last, but in its nether depths, what fearsome blast quenches the fire, always wanting to go on. We shiver, but we stay. This house is ours. Its price must be amassed. And then here is Libba's poem. I've made a discovery to my despair. The TVUUC has no millionaire. Of designers and dam builders, we've a great horde. Why not Morgenthau, Rockefeller, Ford? We've artists who dribble and artists who daub, but none like Walt Disney make dough at the job. Pianists and fiddlers and singers galore, no talent we're lacking, but cash, that's the core. The students and teachers could fill a small school, but teachers with money, exception, not rule. Our women are voters and nurses and such. Barbara Hutton or Miss Duke could give us so much. We've authors and poets and men of research, but no financier who could give us a new church. We're a band of idealists, broke if you like. If visions were bricks, we'd be out on the pike. And here we are, what, nearly 100 years later. So happy birthday, TVUUC, and let's put the lie to Libba's concerns about our financial shortcomings.
Our meditation for this morning is an adaptation of a heart meditation from the picture book I Am Love by Susan Baird. And in fact, we used this meditation in our reflection room space a few weeks ago with some of our young folks. Today, we're invited to reflect on love, which is at the center of our UU faith. And so we're going to take a few moments now to build awareness of the love in the centers of our own bodies. And so I invite you to join me by finding a comfortable position for your body where you are. Now I invite you, if you would, to place your hands on your heart or on that space between your ribs that is sometimes known as your heart space. Placing a hand on your heart actually can cause the release of a chemical in the brain called oxytocin, which, simply put, you might call the hormone of safety, bonding, and connection. So this gesture can be extremely soothing to the nervous system. Now I'm going to invite you to close your eyes or look down and begin to breathe slowly through your nose, in, and then directing your breath to your heart. And imagine with each breath that you are lighting up your heart with a warm, bright light. And notice how your heart feels. And as you continue to breathe, I invite you to bring to mind a moment when you felt completely loved and safe. It could be a time shared with a loved one, a pet, a teacher or a friend, in a circle of community like this one gathered here or in another part of your life. So just a moment, and notice how your heart feels, and let that feeling now travel through your whole body. And holding on to that feeling, breathe in and think, I am love. And breathe out and think, I give love. And continue those thoughts. I am love. I give love as you breathe in and out. And imagine the warmth and light in your heart connecting you to others in this space and others in the world. So I'm going to invite us into a time of silent reflection, which we know is never silent. We welcome the noises of life among us, but as we are centered in ourselves, breathing in with I am love and out with I give love, we'll take a few moments together. I am love. I give love. Notice as you open your eyes how you feel. The more we do practices like this, the easier it becomes to connect with our hearts and to find the love at our center. So thank you for taking part in that with me this morning.
So, reflections on gratitude and pledging. My name's Ted Jones, and I'm chair of the stewardship team. Let me name this wonderful team to you so we can recognize their work. The members of the stewardship team are MJ Aiken, Rob Bray, Bill Cherry, Eddie Chin, Denise Coleman, Heather Kistner, Jenna Mashburn, Cindy Moffett, and Taylor Thomas. And there's always room for more if you want to join us. Thank you, team. Okay, so here we are. It's that time again, talking about money. We don't talk about money very often, usually once a year. No, twice a year. October is endowment month. So twice a year we talk about money, not real often, as important as it is. It's my personal opinion that Unitarian Universalists are conflicted about money. We rail about the 1% often enough that we think money and wealth might have become bad words. We kind of go back and forth on this. Wealth. What do we think about someone if they are wealthy? Is it okay to be wealthy? Do we like wealthy people? Are we a wealthy church? I don't have any quick answers on this. I'm just noticing and raising the issue. I offer the idea that money and wealth may not always be negative and sometimes might even be embraced, and we might be more wealthy than we think. And then there's giving money. Whether you're wealthy or not, giving money is special. Giving money to others is a spiritual act. It's an act of generosity. It shows concern about someone outside yourself. And there's an element of trust, because money can be used in so many different ways. Giving the recipient money means you hope they're going to use your gift in a way that pleases you. So giving money shows trust. Giving money affects the giver as well. Giving money, when done with the right heart and motivation, means you've contributed to something outside yourself. It's a chance to feel like Ebenezer Scrooge on Christmas morning. There's often a good feeling that when you give. And giving to the church, this church, is special. It's often tempting to give money to a certain project or purchase or effort. I want my money to go to this. Giving to the general operating fund requires trust of the church board, some of whom you may not even know, that they will use the money in the best way possible. So thank you for giving money to this church and for the trust that you are giving by giving your gift. Now, a pledge. Pledge is a little bit different than a gift. A pledge is your best estimate of how much money you're going to give next fiscal year. In this case, July 2024 to June 2025. A pledge is important. Pledge is just as important as giving, maybe even more so. If you give money to the church, that's helpful. But by pledging, the board can make plans. They know the money will be coming in, probably, and they can't make plans if they don't know how much money might be coming in. So pledging helps us grow and be better and be an improved place. So pledging is an enhanced gift, a gift on steroids. Now, a pledge is not an IOU. It's not a contract. It's not even really a pledge in the true meaning of that word.
We won't harass you if you don't give as much as you thought you were going to give. Some people are scared to say a pledge because it feels like a pledge. But it's not that strict. It's an estimate of what your giving will be. We know that life happens and incomes swing wildly. So make your best guess about what you think you'll be giving, and we'll go from there. Having some idea of what money might be coming in really helps the board. And anybody can pledge. You don't have to be a member or a friend. I'm talking to you online. Anybody can pledge to this church. Don't plan on giving us your extra money. You don't have extra money. We don't have extra money. Money you don't know what to do with. Usually all of our personal wealth is spoken for. So give us money that's not extra. It's money that could be going someplace else. Because giving the money that at first you may not want to share is what makes giving special. As former 3-time church president Alan Moore once said, if you don't notice it or feel it when you give, then you're not giving enough. Noticing your money is gone is the special gift giving can give. That's when giving becomes a spiritual act. Now, bookkeeping note, if you're going to give more than your pledge, that's great, fine, thank you. Let the church office know what you're doing. They may apply it to this year and it'll be a surplus, or they may apply it to next year and you can get ahead in your pledge. But if you give more than your pledge, just let us know how to apply that book-wise. So this is the beginning of this year's pledge campaign for financial gifts. There's a couple of new wrinkles. Rob Gray is in the hallway, in the foyer, making short videos from anybody that would want to say why they are grateful and give gratitude about this place. Having those videos, hearing what other people find special and giving gratitude about this place is really helpful. The other new wrinkle is the tie-in to our church's history. On Rob's table and around, you'll find a yellow piece of paper that's called the TVUUC History Quiz. It has 12 multiple choice items, and the idea is to answer all the questions correctly. Okay, you're here, and we'll give you a bonus for this, just between us. The correct answer is always the last answer. Okay? E, none of the above, all the above, whatever it is. The last answer is always correct. So now you know you can ace the quiz. You do the quiz. There's a contact information at the bottom. You write down your name and contact information, and it goes in a drawing. We will be drawing for prizes, and we're still gathering prizes, but we do have prizes. And we will be gathering prizes, and on March 3rd, we will be drawing for the prizes. So, fill out the quiz, put it in. Now, if you don't have any money, it's okay. We're not going to leave you out. A pledge is giving your estimate. So you could write on a pledge card if you had absolutely no money. Write 0 on the pledge card, turn it in, turn in the quiz, and we'll still enter you in a drawing. So maybe you'll get some drawings or get a prize from the drawing. So pledging, you can use the QR code, you can use the link in your email, you can put it in the collection basket that we have, you can give it to the church office, you can put it in a box out in the foyer. So please give us your pledge, whatever it is, so we don't have to spend time following you up. Express your gratitude to this community. Pledge for this next year and give money to the church. Give money to this beloved community. Thank you.
As we were reflecting on gratitude, I found myself thankful for the great Smoky Saxes who are leading us in song today. And they are Jordan Cathlin, Dawson May, Anna Catton, and Jordan Cannon. So one more time, I'm very thankful. And you may stay seated as we sing hymn number 368. Now let us sing.
Good morning. My name is Claudia Presley. I'm the Director of Finance and Operations here at TVUUC. I'm moving this right here, so hopefully you can see it. Ted said we only talk about money twice a year. However, I'm sure all of you would say, that is not true. Claudia gets up here every single Sunday and talks about money. So I'm here to talk about money because this part of our service is where we talk about our Share the Plate organizations. That's where we collect money for community organizations, and this Sunday, that organization is the Beck Cultural Center. However, in a few minutes, Gordon Gibson will be coming to talk about Beck. But right now, I want to talk about how you can give to Beck and how you can give to us every single Sunday. Lots of different ways. There are offering baskets back on the choir railing, right as you go in and out of the sanctuary. Checks, cash, those work great in there. If you'd like to use a credit or a debit card, there's a giving kiosk in the lobby. If you're watching online, there should be a give button or bar there. In an effort to make things even more convenient for those of you that love QR codes, that's what this is. You're going to see a sign at either end of the choir railing back there. If you're familiar with it, you know exactly what to do. If you're not familiar with it, take your phone, point the camera at it, and it will automatically open up to our secure giving site. At that point, the very first thing you should see is Share the Plate. Give what you can give. So now Gordon's going to come and talk about Beck. So please, give what you can give. Thank you.
Adjust. The Beck Cultural Exchange Center is where African American history is preserved. It is a marvelous repository, an archive of Knoxville and East Tennessee Black history. But it's so much more. We get, if you're on their email list, you get weekly updates of significant Black history dates. It's also a meeting place. NAACP regularly meets there. The Martin Luther King Commemorative Commission meets there to plan its events. But also, the League of Women Voters recently had a candidate forum there. The OREPA, Oak Ridge Environmental Peace Alliance, that's a slip, has an annual event as part of the Martin Luther King series of events. Knox County Education Coalition had a listening session there, very effectively. And you also meet people there. Thinking about my experiences at the Beck, well, the Beck is where I first met a fellow with whom I share some interests, a guy named Dan Brown, who later became a member of the city council and ultimately the first Black mayor of Knoxville. One day I was over at the Beck and a prospective candidate was checking it out as a possible meeting place. So I met future county mayor Glenn Jacobs at the Beck. You never know what discoveries you'll make there. Oh, one more reason for us to support the Beck. Our late beloved Irvin Williams was a longtime board member at the Beck. So, be generous to TVUUC and the Beck Cultural Exchange Center.
And now is the time during the offertory. If you have a piece of paper that represents you and your heart to add to our mishmash heart, if you would pass it maybe to the ends of your rows, and if you would like, helpers can come and bring them up to the basket here, or you can hold them up high, and I bet a helper will come gather it from you. So we're going to gather those during our offering. Thank you.
fellow preacher once told me the story about a woman who won $10 million in the lottery, but she was worried about breaking the news to her husband because he had a weak heart, and she was worried that the shock might lead him to have a heart attack. He was so excited. So she approached her minister and said, "Can you find some gentle way to break the news to my husband?" And so the minister agreed, and the minister took the husband out for lunch, and after some casual conversation, he said, "You know, have you ever wondered what you might do if you won $20 million? And the man said, "I know exactly what I'd do. I'd give half of that money to the church." And at this point, the minister had a heart attack. I tell that story because we're launching our stewardship drive, and I want you to know I've been to the heart doctor, and the doctor's assured me that my heart is healthy enough to receive your shockingly generous donation. Generosity is good for our hearts. Medical research shows that generosity decreases our blood pressure, reduces our stress levels, and increases our lifespans. This month we are celebrating the 75th anniversary of our church. We heard earlier about the early church meeting in Fort Sanders, dreaming about being in a building on Kingston Pike, and we are living in their dream. In that 5th anniversary, though, one of the things I learned reading the history files is how much the humor of this church is present from the very beginning. The early church was subsidized by our denomination for 5 years. Our denomination was then known as the American Unitarian Association. And so for that reason, they were very aware at the 5th anniversary that they were losing their subsidy. And this inspired one member of the church, it might have been Libba, it might have been Ruth Graff, we don't know who, to rewrite the words to the hymn, "Holy, Holy, Holy." It goes like this. Manna, no more manna, comes from AUA. Now we're independent, we must make our own way. Hands in pockets, brothers, dig, dig till it hurts. Give us now your pennies, later on your shirts. So the humor of this congregation goes back to its earlier days. Another person rewrote the words to the doxology to say, "From us must all the budget flow, for Boston ain't gonna rain no more. Goodbye to 5 years subsidy. Who now will pay? Yes, you and me." Our congregation is a product of generosity. We were subsidized by our denomination for 5 years, and our congregation has lived out generosity, helping to launch 3 congregations: our sister congregation, Oak Ridge Unitarian Universalist Church, our sibling congregations, West Side Unitarian Universalist Church in Farragut, and Foothills Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Maryville. So we've been very good stewards of our resources. Gordon Gibson often points out that the Knoxville area has a higher per capita number of Unitarian Universalists than Boston, where our headquarters are, and that's a sign that we've been good stewards of our resources. Last week, someone came to our church who hasn't ever been in the building for a Sunday service, as far as I know, lives 2 counties over, and just to hand deliver a check for the pledge drive. And when Michael Miller opened up the check, his eyes bounced. So he just got really big. And I tell that story just to say that our church has a ministry that goes way beyond the walls of this building. There are people who live 2 counties over or all over the world who are tuning in. Just last week, I shared a memory about how grateful I was for the role of Nancy Price, the role she played in mentoring me when I was a young adult, helping me become a director of religious education. And Nancy left Knoxville in the 1990s, so she hasn't been in a part of this church in over 30 years. But for some reason, that was the Sunday she chose to tune in and watch our service online, and she got to hear what I had to say about her role. And there's some synchronicity in that, what Carl Jung calls synchronicity, or what Leroy Graff would have said, "It is a coincidence, but it's enough of a coincidence to give a Unitarian pause." I mention this incident because our ministries can be seen, but sometimes isn't seen. When someone is rolling a cart of groceries out to our free food pantry, we can see it. Or when the congregation has a great turnout at the Justice Knox rally, we can see it. Or when the art gallery does a great show, like we got our first Sunday of an art show, we can see it. And when we walk down the halls during religious education time, we can see the teachers teaching. And when people are delivering groceries for fish to help people in need, we can see it. And when the spiritual care team has a listening booth out in the hall, we can see that work. But so often the work of the church goes unseen. The scriptures tell us faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. And when we participate in the life of the church, we live and move and have our being in a power that is unseen. The power of the work that gets done when no one is watching. The power of commitment that allows us to push and pull and stretch until the arc of the moral universe bends toward justice. Generosity is good for the heart. This week I was visiting a member of our church in the hospital, and I happened to walk by the cardiology wing of the hospital, and it occurred to me that the work of the church is to heal the world of heart disease. Stinginess and greed and an inability to let go, that's a heart disease. Racism is a heart disease. Sexism is a heart disease. Transphobia and homophobia, these are heart diseases. Religious bigotry and racism are heart diseases. Of course, when we live with an open heart, we can get hurt. And there are many ways to love and lose. But that's what we're called to do, to love and to lose. My father, of blessed memory, an Episcopal priest, someone I loved and lost, he had a very kind of interesting perspective on a lot of issues. He once said to me, "Chris, the followers of John Wesley are known as Wesleyans, and the followers of Martin Luther are known as Lutherans. And in the Episcopal Church, we are heavily influenced by the teachings of the 16th century theologian Richard Hooker, but we wisely decided not to call ourselves hookers." It was with this kind of irony that he responded to something that Ted Turner said many years ago. Ted Turner made an announcement that Christianity is a religion for losers. And a lot of ministers were offended, and a lot of ministers were angry, and a lot of ministers were upset. But my dad, the minister, said, he's right. And he should know, as someone who lost his son, a teenager who died in a car accident, we don't get through this life without loving and losing. There's a tradition in the Catholic Church of the Sacred Heart where Jesus is shown pointing to a heart that's on fire, shining with divine light, encircled by a crown of thorns, bleeding with a cross and pierced by a lance. It's a reminder that none of us gets through this life without a banged up, beat up, patched up heart. As the author Toni Morrison once wrote, "No apologies for a bleeding heart when the opposite is no heart at all. The danger of losing our humanity must be met with more humanity." All across the country, there are state legislatures who are passing laws that group together have been called the slate of hate. Laws that are hostile to the LGBTQIA community, laws that are hostile to immigrants, laws that are hostile to the poor and the homeless, laws that are hostile to the uninsured, laws that are hostile to unions, laws that are hostile to people of color, laws that are hostile to non-traditional families. And we oppose these laws not because politics is the most important thing in our lives. We oppose these laws not because we're culture warriors trying to do this tit-for-tat game in the midst of a culture war. We oppose these laws not because we're into virtue signaling or performance politics. We oppose these laws because it is the mission of our church to heal the world of heart disease, and these laws are bad for our heart. So as we begin our stewardship drive, I invite you to fill out your pledge card and make a pledge this week. The earlier you make a pledge, the easier it is for us to plan our budget. So I invite you to give. Can I invite everybody who's involved in the Stewardship Drive Committee to stand up? Let's recognize those folks. Everyone. All right, thank you. You can see the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few, so the more you can be proactive about giving, the easier it is on our crew there. One of the mundane things we need to do, I'm going to invite you to think about looking for the sacred in the mundane, because one of the mundane things we need to do is repave our parking lot. And you heard, Jenna, how the politics of the parking lot can get testy and get testy. But I ask you to reflect on that's in many ways a boring thing to have to think about. But as you think about your pledge, think about how that parking lot has had buses from Moms Demand Action. They're loaded up and headed to Nashville to lobby for safe gun laws in our country. Think about the times the buses have been for Planned Parenthood to go up to Nashville to lobby for women's health and women's rights. Think about the time the Unduck bus came through with immigration reformers advocating for immigration reform, traveling all over the country. Think about the time that the women in black have used our parking lot so that Muslims and Jews and people of all faiths can speak out for world peace on Kingston Pike. So as you fill out your pledge card, remember to contemplate the sacred in even the most ordinary details. Give generously because it's good for our hearts. Give generously because it's good for our souls. Give generously so that the administrator assistant's eyes will pop out and the minister will clutch his heart. Give generously so that we can continue to say, we are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. Feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. Go forward in the power of love. Proclaim the truth that makes us free.